I will be reading this because I don't have the 6.5 pages I wrote memorized. Hello, Nerdy Christmas Die is my favorite musical, and I'm having a huge hyper focus on Hatchetfield. I personally love seeing character analysis in video essays, so I naturally watched everything of this kind I could find about it. I did find quite a few videos about Max, but only one about Grace, which there should be more. She's such an intriguing character. And I surprisingly didn't find any focusing on both of them at the same time, so I'm making my own. Also, this is my first ever video essay, so don't come at me. Like the video, Max Jägerman is far more than your stereotypical bully by Bill and Malin on YouTube said. Max's expectations about the people around him were broken. When the hierarchy he established and worked to maintain came crashing down, he felt betrayed. I'd actually say this started not as a real threat but as defiance before his death when Pete tried to go on David's staff. Max was quick to put him back in his place in this case, reinforcing the hierarchy again. But how dare Pete think he could break bread with Stephanie Lauder? And then
You lured me to that house.
Steph did something about it. She aligned herself with the nerds team, despite being way higher in the hierarchy than them. If it wasn't for her betrayal, he wouldn't have peed his pants. Or died, but he doesn't care much about that part. In the following weeks, no one bullied the nerds anymore, and worse, Jason and Kyle, who were his friends, were accepting Richie Lipschitz with open arms, as if they were allowed to do that, as if Richie deserved to be treated with dignity. Once again, Max punishes a nerd for going against his will. Like the video, Richie's death is more horrifying than you think. Also by Viola and Melling points out, Max tortured and taunted Richard before killing him. Later on, that's Ruth. She finally found some confidence to do something she loved. She was performing, even if all by herself. She felt confident enough to dream. And how dare she want to be more? How dare her try to be any different than what he built her as? And that brings us to Grace Chasity.
You were right about me, Max. I tried to hide it, pray it away. But you were right. I'm a dirty girl.
She did the opposite of what everyone else did. She didn't defy him. She confirmed that he was right. She admitted something that she never had admitted before, but that he knew. Grace was the only one who didn't betray him. Well, until she told him to pay the price for her deal with the Lord in Black, and Max was going to burn in hell. But he said it was worth it. Let's take a look at Grace. Abstinence Camp Grace, to be precise. Most of these points were brought to my attention by the Grace Chasity character study by Fans Collapsed. Grace spends the whole year looking forward to Abstinence Camp. There, she's amidst like-minded people. People who not only thought like her, but she believed by the same ideals and morals. When she learns that her friends were killed, also learning that lumberjacks is real, it also meant her friends had committed lustful acts. Not only that, but boy Jerry and girl Jerry, who thought about the importance of abstinence, who were voluntarily celibate, had a child together. And on top of that, were also covering up the murders of fellow campers. Her expectations for them were certainly broken. Now let's go back to Nerdy Crews Must Die for a moment. Grace doesn't have to face as many things of this nature in the musical, but the two that she does face are incredibly important. The first one is herself. Grace has to, for the first time, face her own impure thoughts and actions, which was something she definitely didn't expect from herself.
Come on, Grace. This isn't you.
And went completely against what she believed was right. The second one was God. As Grace expressed in the Wayland Place, she believed Max's death was a divine act. And so when it seemed like she would face the consequences for it, she felt abandoned by him, betrayed. At this moment, her whole worldview came crashing down. If God had abandoned her, she had nothing to support herself with anymore. And that is where the Lords in Black come in, but not what this video is about. At this point, I'll have to draw some comparisons between Max and Gabe, much like Fence Collapse did, but in a slightly different way. After all, both Gabe and Max were attracted to Grace and died because of it. Gabe was one of Grace's friends from abstinence camp. As I mentioned before, she expected him to be like her, to live by God's rule and stay pure. She never felt attracted to him because she had no reason to think of him any differently from the others. Also, Gabe is gross, but again, not what this is about. Max, on the other hand, is the complete opposite of Grace's ideals and unashamed to show it. He's everything that's sinful, and so it's no surprise when he flirts with her. If you can even call it flirting. My point in all of this is that both Grace and Max had frustrated expectations and felt betrayed by something lately. But in both cases, the other was something that stayed true to their views of them. Another thing that I like to bring up, albeit a much smaller point, is how both Grace and Max can control their friends by using fear. Now, if you only watch Nerdy Pros Must Die, you might be wondering, when did Grace do that? It was in abstinence camp, and it's amazing. Go watch it right now. Anyway, back to what I was saying, I think with Max it's pretty obvious. We can see him very clearly controlling how Jason and Kyle should act, who they should or not make fun of, who they could or couldn't date, etc. And his power also extends to the rest of the school. With Grace, I think we need to look a little more at the context. First, Steph and Pete were going to be killed by lumberjacks and Grace saved their lives. Second time she did that in the episode, by the way. She talked to little Jerry, convincing him to kill boy Jerry and girl Jerry instead. He then handed his axe to Grace, passing on the responsibility to keep the woods clean. Thinking they're finally safe, Steph starts pulling Pete along to leave the camp I don't wanna bang. But
not so fast. The summer's not over yet.
Grace gets in their way with an axe in hand and an unhinged look in her eyes. They stay at the camp to have the rest of the summer filled with wholesome fun. During the final scene, we can clearly see that Pete and Steph are reasonably terrified of her, which she feels by sharpening the axe in a silent threat. Both Max and Grace are sadistic. We've seen them enjoy violence and find glee in the suffering of others. Max very clearly by being a bully, and Grace, besides being attracted by Max's violent reactions in the Wayland Place, in a more obvious way in moments like when she's chasing a horrified Jason in the end of Nerdy Pros Must Die, and in a more subtle way on other instances. Divine punishment. If you do something wrong, you must suffer. And Grace loves when you do. That's why she tells on people so much. And maybe even why she's hall monitor. In relation to this, she also loves feeling morally superior to people. I will open one exception to that in relation to Steph in abstinence camp. That was a very serious topic for Grace, and she was genuinely worried for her friend. Lastly, this part isn't an analysis or anything, but I want to talk about the songs Nerdy Prince Must Die and Dirty This Must Die. First of all, Nerdy Prince Must Die is my favorite song in the musical. Secondly, I think it's genius how they had Grace sing a reprise of it in the end. It showcases so perfectly how those two foil each other, how they're surprisingly, incredibly similar. Although having contrasting values, oh, I love them so much. I'm so obsessively obsessed with this musical slash the Hatchetfield universe in general. Look, I make little miniature large and black dolls. Anyway, back to the subject. I also think it's quite interesting that both songs are the ends of their respective acts. Nothing important to say about this though, I just think it's really cool. The videos I referenced are Max Jägerman is far more than your stereotypical bully, an NPMD analysis by Will and Malin, Grace Chasity and the Horrors of Purity, a Hatchetfield character study by Fans Collapse, and a little bit of Rich's death is more horrifying than you think, an NPMD analysis, also by Will and Malin. I also want to give a shout out to the other videos on Max I've seen because they're all really good. I rant about Max Jägerman for 20 minutes. Nerdy Prince Must Die by Beehive Boy. In Praise of Will Brenner by Sid's Corner and The Tragedy of Max Jägerman. Nerdy Prince Must Die analysis by Alhori. I think it's how you pronounce it. I'm not sure if it's wrong and you know, please let me know. Which is personally my favorite of those videos. Also, I'm thinking of making another video about Grace, including why I think she's autistic. So let's see if I'm able to do that. I don't know if I will. Anyway, that's it. Bye. She did the episode. She did the opposite what everyone knows. As Chris? Okay. Violent reaction in the really long place. Whooshy. Besides me. Lately? No, not lately. Leslie. Beware. I pictures of honey to dream.